This is Walt Disney World Today. Give us 5 minutes and we'll give you the world.
It's Monday, March 12th, 2007, and this is episode 229 of Walt Disney World Today. I'm your host, Matt Hochberg of MGMstudios.org. On the show today, we have Mike Newell of Mouse World Radio. Welcome back, Mike.
Freshly back from Old Key West, thank you.
And, I was wondering if you stayed there or at Pop, because you went solo.
No, I stayed at Old Key West this time.
Gotcha. And also on the show tonight is Len Testa, co-author of the Unofficial Guide to Walt Disney World. And Len, all I have to say to you is, nobody rules these streets at night like me. Nobody!
The Atomic Punk.
Yeah, what a terrible song.
Oh my god.
Len likes this?
No, I don't like that particular song off of Van Halen 1, I might add, but everything else is a masterpiece in the gym.
You can't help but sing along to that part.
I don't know if that'll make the lineup when they do the reunion. And they will. Rehab is just another cross for us to bear on the way to the reunion. All right.
We also have Mike Scopa of MousePlanet.com. Welcome, Mike.
You want a song? I got a woman, she's got me. Whatever we do, we both agree. She ain't pretty, but I ain't too. The things we like are the things we do. My woman ain't pretty, but she don't swear.
Stop him.
Kinda heavy, don't weigh a ton. She's my woman through and through. I love her only 'cause my heart is true. Turn it off. Turn it off.
I saw that like 6 times this last week.
And it would be Len. Share it with our listeners.
Country Bear Jamboree.
Very good. On today's show, we're talking about Tomorrowland and Future World, and what we're talking about exactly is how these lands have stopped being prognosticating the future, and as a result, they've become more timeless attractions. They're no longer centered around actually predicting something about the future. They're not about trying to show you what could be in the coming years. Rather, they're now, in some cases, they're a little more, depending on the land. Some are just an extension of Fantasyland, some could argue, while others are they're timeless. Like Mission Space is a good example of that. I think it just shows you the current reach of mankind. So, this is a major change because, especially in Tomorrowland and the Magic Kingdom, where really predicting the future has been a major element of it. As you remember, on a couple, that's been more than a couple of years ago, Disney closed off Tomorrowland and redid it completely to kind of, do a timeless futuristic tone, kind of like a Jetsons kind of thing.
Yeah, the Jules Verne version, yeah. Yeah. Well, that was the problem they were having, is that they were having trouble keeping up with Tomorrow. Again, it requires a huge capital investment every year to change the attractions, to change attractions over to what's still going to be in the future 10 years from now, because stuff is always being produced.
Yeah, I mean, Future World is better, I think, at keeping the kind of that something going there of theme, a general cohesive theme than Tomorrowland does. I mean, Mission Space is probably the best example of it. Although, of course, we've brought up many times how is Soarin' and futuristic.
Yeah, well, we conveniently forgot about that.
Yeah, and I mean, Test Track it's not really showing you anything advanced. It's what they're doing today. Although I'll give it a pass more so than.
Although they are electric vehicles, are they not?
The vehicles you're riding, and although they're supposed to represent gas guzzling.
SUVs.
Yeah, because it says this test brought to you by Saturn and
maybe it's more tomorrow than you think, Matt.
Gas guzzling SUVs are the future.
Yeah, so I mean, really, the Imagination Pavilion isn't really anything about. Well, I guess the Imagination isn't really anything about tomorrow, but the hydroponic stuff hasn't changed in forever, except for the fact that they've broken that world record tomato plant.
Yeah, but that is kind of futuristic, how they. I mean, it's still not widely adopted. And
man, a couple of years ago.
Okay, good point.
A couple of years ago, if you guys remember, I would say maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I can recall at one point there was an effort that was put forth to try to change Future World's name. They were going to call it Discovery World or something like that.
Yeah, that's actually Yeah, that's the
Never
it's part
caught
of the
on.
Project Gemini thing. That,
Yeah, it's
that
part of
Disney-
Project Gemini. Because I think, Len, what they realize is that, hey, this isn't future. This is we're trying to bring some information to our guests, trying to get them to discover what's out there. And so they said, gee, let's try to rename it Discovery World. Well, it never caught on, so it's still Future World, unfortunately.
But that's actually a good point, because thanks. No problem. That might be easier for them is to show what's current rather than trying to predict the future, because the current stuff, I guess, is a little bit easier in terms of technology and forecasting and getting people in. It'll be interesting what they do with Innoventions, because isn't a large part of Innoventions being gutted now?
I've seen they're doing a lot. There's a lot of construction outside of it.
Yeah,
You
I think
know.
on the inside too. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think the road to Innoventions is being.
I did the House of Tomorrow tour when I was down there about 2 weeks ago, and that is still kind of on the. I would say it's fairly. It's not like going to blow your mind futuristic, but it's still out there. It's still on the bleeding edge of technology. I would say.
Like what?
Like no one uses any of that stuff. Half the stuff in there, no one uses still. I mean, the toilet thing, I don't know of anyone who has. I've never seen one. I've just found a lot of those. I'm struggling to come up with examples here, but I found that to be generally out there.
You're talking about like the sewing machine that does patterns and stuff like that.
Yeah, there you've got
It's just okay.
yeah. Well,
I'm looking for some sort of grand idea, some sort of inspirational message in those things that I really don't see in the current crop of attractions in either in Tomorrowland or in Future World. I mean, they could do a lot with the seas. They could do a lot with the land around global warming, around sustainable agriculture, and except for the behind the scenes tour, which costs extra, I don't really see a whole lot there, other than the standard kind of messages that you would expect a large corporation to give. I think they could do more.
I think so. I mean, given the scope of the area, I think that's absolutely true.
I mean, what's the story now of the land? I mean, I understand the ride. The ride is there's a ride that Nemo's gone, but the thing that
You mean the seas?
The
seas.
seas. Sorry, the thing that the seas lacks is a coherent message. What is it other than a big fish tank?
You can almost say that maybe they're trying in a subliminal fashion to say, look what we have, look what the seas offers us, and we want to do whatever we can. Maybe we could change that pavilion into an inconvenient truth or whatever.
Exactly.
And what they are trying to promote, it seems like they're trying to promote that, at least in the land pavilion with the thing with Simba. What is
Circle
it
of Life?
called? Circle of Life. Yeah,
15 freaking years old.
I know, but the whole idea is that there's a subliminal message, perhaps, that they're trying to.
Should get Al Gore to over double the parts. Yeah.
Yes, there you go. There you go.
So-
Have this
but-
image on the spaceship Earth or something.
But don't you think though that the seas lacks sort of a theme?
Oh, I agree.
Other than,
I agree
other than
with you
the big, it's a bunch of isolated small things, but there's not a whole. What's the
Well, okay. Here's
purpose
what I
of-
think. You've got Nemo and his friends. Okay, so you've got children going into that pavilion. So the children are saying, "Oh, okay, let's go through this nice little ride, and we're in the clamshell or whatever, and look, there's Nemo and Dory and whatever. They are my friends. They are living in the ocean. I don't want to pollute my friends. Maybe that's the theme. Who knows?"
I just think, as we're talking about this, I'm beginning to think that the names, Future World and Tomorrowland, they're just names of places that attractions are. They're no longer, they don't have a scope to them anymore. They're just,
Right.
Oh, that's in Futureland or Future World, and you just go over there. I think not about the time that they got rid of Dreamflight and Timekeeper, or they started closing Timekeeper down, and then now it's gone. I think at that point they started saying, let's forget about this whole idea about trying to be into the future. Let's just get things that don't fit anywhere else and put them over here.
Yeah,
That's
maybe.
like what they did with High School Musical.
Yeah, exactly. Now that's over.
Yeah, that was worse than Soarin'. I mean, that was just
In
I don't know.
Tomorrowland, yeah.
putting that in the Tomorrowland
Oh, we've got a
stage.
stage. Let's put a High School Musical there.
Yeah.
Oh, that was bad. We've been talking a lot about Future World. Going back to Tomorrowland, obviously you have Space Mountain, which I guess is about as futuristic as
I mean, space travel is still some ways off, right?
Yeah.
So okay, I can accept that. The TTA, marginally so. Okay, but let's even say that.
Turkey legs.
The what? Turkey legs.
Very futuristic.
Very futuristic.
Nothing says the future like turkey legs.
Buzz Lightyear. Okay, whatever. Stitch and Monsters Inc. I mean, those aren't really in Tomorrowland anymore. They're just some sort of Pixar animation or animated places that aren't here anymore land, or that aren't here land.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you there. And it's interesting because Disney at one point tried to, make it timeless. They went back, and they redid Tomorrowland to stop being, really futuristic and more like, that Jetsons kind of like crazy retro.
Well, Jules Verne, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But even then, good point. I don't understand how Buzz Lightyear or Stitch
how about the Speedway? Tomorrowland
even
Speedway.
More so, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe Tomorrowland needs a complete overhaul, along with my Jungle Cruise idea. Oh, I hear Jungle Cruise is getting an overhaul.
Yeah, but not your idea to gut it as.
Gut, whatever, overhaul. That's all I'm saying.
Now, Mike Scopa, when you go to, what's your view on what do you think that they should keep?
You were alive when all of these technologies came about. What do you think about tomorrow?
Well, I just want to know if the House of the Future has indoor plumbing.
Back when Stonehenge was being built, and you guys said this thing's great.
I remember talking to the Druids about Stonehenge. Guys, this is never going to work.
What do you think, Mike? Do you see it as a problem? Some people don't care. Some people say, whatever, it's just an area, and you go there, and there's nothing wrong with that. Do you see it as a problem, like they should gut it, or do you not see an issue here at all?
No, I don't think. I think for the normal guest, the non-geek, so to speak, I don't think the name makes a difference. I think for those of us who are constantly looking at what's going on down there, we see these names as misnomers. We see them as maybe being somewhat misleading, and I think that we're probably making a bigger deal of it than it really has to be made. But I really think that the Tomorrowland assortment of attractions, I think they're okay. I think they're trying to make them timeless. So when you have a timeless aspect to an attraction, it doesn't bother me as much. I think the Future World name, I think I would really like to see an effort put forth to change that to Discovery World, because I really think that would be a more appropriate name for that particular portion of Epcot. So Tomorrowland, I mean, that is Walt Disney had placed his stamp on that. We're going to call it Tomorrowland. That's been was part of the television shows for so long. That should stay. However, Epcot, I really think that they should really put forth an effort to change Future World's name to Discovery Land.
Let me play sort of a devil's advocate role here, and I agree with you, Future World. There, what separates Disney from nearly every other theme park out there is the word theme. There's theme everywhere. You find theme everywhere. That's really what really makes Disney special, I think. Whether you're in the resort hotels. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And there's that cohesive theme that you see throughout all of Walt Disney World. And when you get to Tomorrowland and you get to Future World, you see that there really is a breakdown. I don't think the average guest really pays attention that Soarin' is in Future World, technically. But, I mean, certainly Tomorrowland, it's much more evident because it's not as grand of a scale, than the other lands. But, for me, I mean, you could say that it's a good argument, I think, that Disney, it behooves Disney to maintain a level of theme because they are Disney and because that's their shtick. That's what they're known for. That's what they're, that's what separates them from the pack.
I think you're right. I think there's one thing I'm looking at with some curiosity, and that is with this new movie coming out, Meet the Robinsons. I'm going to look at it very carefully and see if there's anything in this film that possibly could end up as an attraction in Tomorrowland, because it seems like I've been seeing that kind of a thing going on. So yeah.
Well, Astro Orbiter and Space Mountain are actually in the film, so they could easily slap something on there. Although,
but is it Rocking Space Mountain or is is it Disneyland though? Because there's a difference between
Yeah.
Space Mountain here and Space Mountain.
We'll have to see when the movie
California.
comes out. But yeah, I mean that's going to be that'd be an easy theme change. Like when you see sometimes you see some movies and it's like dude, that's perfect for I think everybody saw the Pirates of the Caribbean change coming about a mile away. Once the movie was as big as it was when the first one came out. But it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go out on Newell's opinion here. Newell, what's your thought on the whole thing? Do you care?
Yeah, I do care, actually. It does make
So
a...
Okay,
Yeah.
good night, folks.
Okay. Thank you. We'll see you on the next show. No, like the comment I made earlier about even the other night when I was in Pirates and Princess, in Tomorrowland they had that whole DJ setup.
Oh yeah.
I'm in Tomorrowland. I'm like, this does not fit. Even at the party, they should have put that guy someplace else.
Yeah, the bar mitzvah DJ.
Yeah.
You should have been somewhere else.
But you know what it is? And the problem is with that area is they have that big room. That's like where they put High School Musical. You have that whole open space that they.
Yeah, I mean they have a lot of space and they
But let me-
put something over there.
Let me ask you a question. Maybe Len knows this. When they put High School Musical in Tomorrowland, why didn't they put it in the Tomorrowland Theater?
I don't know. It's a good question. Maybe
I thought it was in the theater.
No,
it was
on
on
a
a small stage.
Right.
It wasn't
Maybe
big
because
enough.
exactly. The
Is that what
scale
it
of
is?
the
Okay.
production was such that it wouldn't.
And the other thing, Mike, was that when they did that, they wanted to have the the children participate. So
Oh, okay.
by having it on a small stage, there was a lot more interactivity going on.
That makes perfect sense. It still didn't belong there, I thought, but you're right.
Well, there you go. Len will take us out singing High School Musical.
Together.
Could have found a better song. Man, you could have done Keep Your Head in the Game.
Oh, I hate that song. I'm talking like a teeny bopper. Man.
Well, that's it for us today. If you want to find older episodes, read our shoutouts, or send us your comments, you can visit the Walt Disney World Today website at www.today.com. For Mike Scopo, Len Testa, and Mike Newell, I'm Matt Hochberg. We'll see you on the next show.